There are moments when a woman's presence stirs something profound in a man's psyche, an ancient layer of the soul, where ethereal, shadowy figures still quietly dwell in dreams and deep memories. It is not love at first sight. It is the anima, the sacred feminine within a man's unconscious, stirring awake. And that woman, unaware of her role, becomes a mirror reflecting his soul, a catalyst igniting a transformative process that he cannot yet name. Yet, for this process to begin, the woman need not be perfect. She must simply live fully in her original feminine energy, wild yet refined, soft yet unyielding. So, what truly constitutes the power of feminine energy? How does a woman, by simply being her authentic self, awaken the archetypal anima? In today's video, under the light of Carl Jung's philosophy, we will unravel the mysterious workings of the anima archetype, its impact on love, and its influence on the spiritual evolution of both genders. Stay until the end, as I will share profound and practical exercises to help you reconnect with the natural flow of your feminine essence and awaken a man in a way that words alone cannot achieve. Number 1. What is the anima? Have you ever scrolled through social media, watched a video, and repeatedly heard the phrase, "Every man carries within him a first love he can never forget"? You might think this first love refers to the first woman he loved. But no. In the depths of Jung's philosophy, he believed that this so-called first love is not a real woman. A man may gaze upon hundreds of women in life, yet remain haunted by a figure he cannot name. A fleeting glance in a dream. A strange compulsion when standing before a woman who defies rational explanation, yet makes his heart step into another realm, where language no longer governs perception. She is not his mother, nor is she his first love. She has no name, no distinct face, yet she is the primal feminine image he carries from birth, the image that shapes how he feels, how he loves, and how he confronts the forgotten parts of his soul. She is the anima. According to Carl Jung, the anima is the archetype representing the feminine aspect within a man's unconscious. But let's not misunderstand. This is not femininity in the sense of softness or weakness. The anima is not about how he behaves, but is a spiritual presence, a vibrant symbol that shapes how he connects with emotions, intuition, and the women he encounters in life. The anima is the bridge between his masculine consciousness and the depths of the unconscious, where wholeness, the sacred, and his true essence reside. In other words, a man cannot truly become himself without crossing the terrain of the anima. Picture the anima as a lake nestled within a primal forest, still, enchanting, and so deep that no one can fathom its depths. A man living by logic and achievement is like someone standing on the lake's edge, gazing at the water but afraid to disturb it. He sees the moon's reflection, its mystical beauty, but it remains only a surface. Only when he dares to step in, to let himself sink into the gentle chaos of the water, does he discover what lies beneath. The buried emotions, old wounds, and the part of his soul that has never fully lived. The anima may appear as a dream of a mysterious woman who says nothing, only gazing at him with piercing eyes. She may manifest in real life as a woman he cannot forget, not because of her beauty, but because her presence makes him see himself. This is why many men become obsessed with a woman they cannot explain. She may not be perfect, sometimes even unsuitable, but she awakens something greater than love within them. It is not mere infatuation. It is the anima calling him to delve into his inner world. If he ignores this call, the obsession may turn to suffering. But if he bravely steps forward, she becomes the guide for his transformation. Carl Jung once said, "She, the anima, functions as a bridge to the unconscious and as a mediator to the inner world." In Jung's world, the anima is a sacred symbol, the soul woman, carrying chaos, cyclical nature, fluctuating emotions, and enchanting intuition. She does not obey logic or submit to order, yet she holds the key to unlocking the spiritual world within a man. And here is something many women may not realize. While the anima is an internal image in a man's psyche, a woman in the real world, when living authentically in her feminine essence, can become the mirror that brings this symbol to life. This is what has the power to unsettle, move, frighten, and attract him all at once. It is not you who changes him, but the anima within him, through you, calling him to return to himself. In a society where everything is systematized into soft skills or personal branding, feminine energy has been commercialized and confined to easily taught, marketable behaviors. But the anima does not strive to be loved. She is not seductive in the way the market teaches. She does not rely on texting strategies, attractive independence, or empowered charisma. She simply exists in her true nature, vivid, multifaceted, emotional, and dreamy. And in doing so, she shakes the very core of a man's inner world. However, if the anima remains unrecognized or suppressed, she can become a seductive shadow in a man's psyche, leading him to idealize women, form blind attachments, or conversely, fear, control, or deny his emotions. In such cases, the anima ceases to be a spiritual bridge and becomes an obsession, a projection, an unhealed wound. Modern psychologists confirm this. A man disconnected from his emotions is often severed from the feminine aspect of his soul. He becomes overly rational, strong by outdated standards, yet empty inside. He may succeed in the material world, but fail in his emotional life. He loves without knowing how to love. He exists in relationships without knowing how to connect. The anima is not merely a philosophical concept. She is a profound psychological truth visible in a man when he cries without understanding his pain, when he leaves you because you make him face what he is not ready to confront, when he grows angry, withdraws, or becomes indifferent. After all, you have unwittingly touched the deepest part of him that he has never named. A woman, as the embodiment of the feminine, like water, like the moon, like a breeze stirring the forest of the unconscious, sets that forest in motion. And if a man is brave enough to enter that forest, he will no longer be the same. The anima will guide him through layers of pretense, past pain and wounds, to rebirth. Not as the ideal man, but as an authentic one. Yet for the anima to manifest vividly in a man's psyche, she needs a vessel, a feminine essence authentic enough to be her reflection. And this brings us to the more pressing question: what is feminine energy truly? Number 2. What is feminine energy? According to Jung, feminine energy is not about how you walk, the softness of your voice, or the sweet expressions learned from social media tutorials on how to be feminine. Feminine energy, in its truest sense within the depths of Jungian psychology, cannot be acquired like a skill. It is not a technique. It is a state of being. Yet those outward gestures, if they do not arise from an authentic inner truth, are merely a facade, a sophisticated disguise cloaks the fear of rejection, a layer of makeup for an ego striving to survive by becoming something acceptable. As Jung warned in The Undiscovered Self, when people lose connection with their unique essence, they become part of an anonymous crowd, operating within templates rather than living from the vibrant archetypes within their soul. In analytical psychology, feminine energy is not defined by behavior, but by intrinsic qualities. It is receptivity, intuition, depth, cyclicality, and the ability to dwell in ambiguity without needing immediate answers. It is a softness that is not synonymous with weakness, a gaze that can pierce through the unspoken. Being gentle, charming, or even strong and decisive does not inherently make one feminine. Jung believed there is no clear definition to distinguish between a woman with high or low feminine energy. A woman may wear black, don high boots, and make swift decisions yet still radiate profound feminine energy if she is fully present, connected to the natural flow of life within her, unhindered by fear or expectations. Conversely, a woman may dress delicately and speak softly, but if her actions are merely adjustments to be loved, she is only performing. And a man's soul senses this. The anima within him senses it. Like the moon, which does not emit its light but enchants the night sky by reflecting the sun's gentle glow, feminine energy does not dazzle or dominate. Yet, it illuminates the darkness with quiet radiance, soothing the space with a humble yet undeniable presence. Feminine energy is like this. It does not need to roar like thunder or blaze like fire, but when truly present, it permeates deeply, unostentatiously stirring the soul. It shifts the rhythm of a room, causing others to lower their voices, making the world pause to listen. Like a flower that does not strive to spread its fragrance, yet its scent subtly weaves into the air, easing the mind without explanation. Feminine energy does not require validation. It simply needs to be lived, fully and authentically. In that presence, the world quietly adjusts to honor it. In Jungian depth, feminine energy is a living archetype, the great mother, the maiden, the enchantress, the wise woman, symbols representing different phases of the feminine essence. Every woman carries them all, cycling through living, dying, and rebirthing with the rhythms of life and soul. When she stops resisting change, stops trying to fit the mold, she begins to live like the earth, silent yet nurturing, accepting yet transformative. You cannot awaken the anima in a man if you are not connected to the feminine energy within yourself. For what awakens him does not come from external actions, but from the energy field you emit when you cease resisting your true self. Perhaps you've loved someone deeply and found yourself becoming strangely sensitive, intuitive, soft, and creative. That is because you tapped into the feminine energy within, the energy that releases the desire to possess or control. When this happens, you not only transform yourself, you become an invisible gateway, leading a man into his inner world. But feminine energy is not just for love. It is a way of living. It is how you sip your morning tea. How do you listen to your body's signals of exhaustion? How you let tears fall without shame? How you stand still amid a storm without needing to shout to be heard? How you choose to trust your intuition over a 5-step plan? And when you live this way, you become a symbol, not because you strive to become one, but because you have returned to yourself. I know a single mother who lacks the time for elaborate self-care like 10-step skincare routines or hour-long morning yoga. Yet, each night after her child sleeps, she writes a few lines in her journal to listen to her inner voice and meditates for 10 minutes. This is the clearest proof that feminine energy does not require an ideal setting. It only asks for your presence, even if just for 10 minutes of silence amid chaos. Carl Jung did not teach women how to be feminine in a societal sense. He went straight to the core. Feminine energy is an aspect of the soul, an archetype that transcends time, existing within all of us regardless of gender. But women carry it closest to consciousness. And when you lose connection with it, you not only lose your way in life, you sever yourself from your primal spiritual power. True feminine energy does not come from striving to be loved. It comes from loving yourself deeply, authentically, and enduringly enough that you no longer need to define yourself through others' eyes. In that moment, you emit a gentle yet profound light, a light that stirs the anima in a man, prompting it to move, to dream, to heed the call from beyond reason. And you don't need to know exactly what is happening. You only need to live true to your feminine essence, the part that feels the world through every fiber of your being, your heartbeat, your breath. The part that was there when you were a little girl, daydreaming, crying over a lifeless insect, or struck still by a sincere gaze. From that, your presence can become the call that sparks transformation in a man. Number 3. When feminine energy awakens the anima in a man. Sometimes a man encounters a woman unlike anyone he has ever known. She does not touch him, yet he feels himself stirred. Not by physical attraction, but by a connection on a deeper, more powerful level. It is not easy to describe that moment. It is not loud. It is like stepping into a space with a familiar scent you cannot place, yet it instantly soothes your mind, as if a distant memory has been summoned. Or like hearing a slow, simple piano melody that stills your heart, not because of the notes, but because of the spaces between them. That moment does not come from the outside. It is a movement from within. In that space, if a man is still enough, he begins to feel that the layers he has built around himself are too tight. His tough words become unnecessary. His forced smiles, meant to conceal, grew weary. And he slips into a silence between two states. One of curiosity, yearning to understand, and the other of fear, hesitating to touch something too real. You can recognize this moment in a man's eyes, when his gaze shifts. It is no longer a look of judgment or curiosity. It becomes a gaze that withdraws inward, as if he is seeing himself again through a passage he did not know he had locked away. He may falter. He may fall silent. He may turn away, because what has just stirred within him is far from comfortable. Some women have asked, why does he pull back after we've grown closer and more connected? The answer may not lie with you. It may lie in the fact that you have stirred a part of him he is not yet ready to face. It is not that you are wrong, it is that you are real. And in a world accustomed to masks, truth can be more frightening than it is cherished. But if he does not retreat, if he is quiet enough to remain in that space, what follows is not a rushed romance. It is a quiet collapse of old layers of consciousness. He begins to see that he no longer wants to play the familiar roles. He grows sensitive to the falseness within himself and in past relationships. He starts to crave something real, not because of others' expectations, but because of an instinct to touch something more alive, more rooted. You do not need to teach him how to do this. You do not need to guide him on how to grow. You do not need to say, you should be this way, you must be that way, because your authentic presence has already done the work. You do not need to speak, for your energy speaks for you, and it speaks a language every man, once a boy, severed from his emotions, longs to hear again. I am not controlling you. I am simply here. Imagine yourself as an ancient library, sealed for centuries, buried deep underground with no map to guide the way, no visible door. Those who stumble upon it do not open it with a key, but with intuition, a heartbeat, and absolute silence. Inside, there are no lights, yet each bookshelf seems to glow when someone enters. Quiet enough to hear the faint rustle of pages stirred by an unseen breeze. A woman living in her true feminine energy is like this. She is not the storyteller. She is the space where forgotten stories speak for themselves. She does not need to lead anyone, but in her presence, secrets thought buried in the unconscious begin to rewrite themselves. And if someone is still enough to read them, without rushing to turn the page, transformation unfolds. If you have ever experienced such a moment, when your presence shifted the atmosphere without words, share your thoughts or experiences below. Your story might be the thread that connects someone lost on this journey. And here is where many women confuse awakening the anima with a mission to save. But Jung never placed hope in such sacrifice. A woman is not born to bear a man's spiritual journey. Her role, if there is one, is deeper, quieter, and sometimes more painful, to reflect the truth he is running from. Number 4. The role of a woman in a relationship. There is a common, both romantic and dangerous mistake that many women fall into, believing they can save or change a man, believing that if they love deeply enough, endure patiently enough, and heal well enough, he will eventually awaken, transform, and become a better version of himself for her. But in Carl Jung's analytical psychology, this is not only an illusion, but a trap. A woman risks losing her essence in the pursuit of saving another, a journey that was never hers to undertake. A man only truly transforms when he sees himself in a mirror, not through criticism, not through expectations, but through a reflection so honest it sends shivers down his spine. A woman, when living authentically in her feminine energy, becomes that mirror, unadorned, unblurred, undistorted. She reflects his soul to him, both its beauty and the parts he has tried to bury. But to reflect another's soul, she must first dare to face her own. A woman who has never confronted her wounds, never sat still in her darkness, cannot become a clear mirror. Her reflection will be distorted. Or worse, she will try to fix the image in the mirror rather than letting the other see their truth. A woman who believes she can save a man is, in truth, trying to control his imperfections to soothe her insecurities. But reflecting is not intervening. Reflecting is standing still, grounded and profound enough that the other cannot help but see themselves, even if only for a few seconds. And sometimes, those few seconds are enough to spark an entirely new journey in a man's soul. Imagine yourself as a lake cloaked in morning mist, still, deep, unswayed by others' movements. When a man approaches and looks into that lake, he sees himself clearly enough to neither pretend nor evade. But if you ripple, react, or try to alter his reflection, the mirror shatters. and both of you return to old roles, one sacrificing too much, the other retreating in fear. Some women have messaged us, asking, "I stood by him at his lowest, gave him everything. Why did he leave me?" But did he ever ask you to save him or sacrifice everything for him? If you lost yourself in trying to rescue him, you ceased to be a mirror and became a lifeboat. And someone floundering in the unconscious will cling to that lifeboat, pulling both of you under, not because he is toxic, but because you stepped away from your sacred archetypal role to become a victim in a story you mistook for love. In Jung's symbolic world, a woman embodies the image of a guide, but she does not live or decide for another. She is the one who opens the door, not the one who pushes someone through. If he is ready, he will step inside. If not, she keeps the door open, but does not wait. She continues to live, as a forest continues to thrive, whether anyone enters or not. A woman who has lived authentically in her feminine essence understands. She is not a savior nor a test. She only needs to keep her inner light burning, not for anyone else, but because it is the flame she was born with. If a man chooses to step forward, to confront, to change, that is his work. If he flees, retreats, or shatters, that too is his work. She does not tie herself to the outcome, for she knows what changes him is not her but himself, through the light she casts. There is no greater power than a woman who remains whole in a world that demands she become every shape to be loved. When she stops trying to be right and starts living true, she no longer follows a man on his journey. She becomes a symbol, not to be pursued, but to be remembered forever. And here lies the deepest paradox. You cannot awaken a man's soul by trying to change him, but by becoming unshakable in your soul. You cannot love him enough to make him change, but you can love yourself so deeply, so authentically, so enduringly, that if he is truly ready to face the truth, he knows exactly where to look, and there you are, whole, undistorted, and never having lost yourself for him. But maintaining that feminine essence is not a gift given freely. It is an inner practice, a daily, quiet, unboasted return to your authentic self. And that is where the journey begins. Number 5. How to reconnect with your feminine energy. If you're still watching this video, perhaps somewhere within you, there's a longing to return. So, let's step into the most crucial part. How do you reconnect with your feminine energy? If you're ready, leave a sign in the comments below and let's begin together. This is not a question seeking a solution. It is a call to return, not to a better version of yourself, but to the primal terrain within, where you were never defined, where you didn't have to become anyone, where you simply needed to exist. Feminine energy lies not in what you do, but in how you are present while doing it. You can cook, write, sit still, work, love, or feel exhausted. All of these can be gateways back to your feminine energy if you are truly present in that moment. But to reconnect, you must pause. And that is the hardest thing in the world that urges you to keep moving forward, improving, being strong, and proving your worth. Reconnecting with your feminine energy begins with daring to do nothing, not controlling yourself, not checking if you're meeting standards, not striving to maintain high energy. Just sit down, close your eyes, listen to your breath, don't adjust it. Just breathe, as you instinctively knew how to do as a child before you could speak. In that moment, the feminine life force within you begins to whisper again. You are still here. You never left. You were only waiting for me to return. You may feel unsettled. You may feel uneasy, because you're so used to playing a role. But feminine energy does not arise from being correct. It arises from the courage to stay with your flaws without retreating, from daring to sit with your sadness instead of fixing it, from letting emotions flow through your body like rain instead of brushing them aside because today I must be happy. Imagine feminine energy as a deep underground sea, silent, shadowy, without light, yet brimming with the potential for life. It does not roar like a waterfall, it does not blaze like the sun, but it nurtures everything that can bloom above ground. And you, in the moment you refuse to chase something external, become the one who opens the door to that subterranean water. You don't need to leave the bustling city, retreat to a rural hideaway, as some young people call it today, or attend a femininity workshop to reconnect with this part of yourself. You only need to place your hand on your chest, close your eyes, and ask, am I betraying myself just to be loved by someone else? If the answer is yes, that is where you begin. Feminine energy is not built through willpower. It is awakened through freedom. When you walk without needing a destination, when you cook without trying to make it picture perfect, when you laugh without needing someone to deem it charming, when you let yourself sleep longer, scribble aimlessly, sing terribly, cry over an old song, or simply sit and watch sunlight spill across the floor in the afternoon. When you live without needing to explain. That is when feminine energy returns, like birds that flew away while you were too busy running. You don't need to eliminate your chaos to become feminine. On the contrary, that very chaos, if you dare to stay with it, is the gateway to stepping into yourself. No one can teach you how to become feminine, but you can peel away the layers of shackles you've placed on yourself to hide your true feminine essence. Each time you make space for your authentic emotions, no matter how uncomfortable, tangled, or unlovely, you are rekindling a flow long blocked. From there, a deeper journey unfolds, the journey of individuation. Number 6. A message for women. When you let go of the shields of control, learn to honor the vibrant cycles of your emotions and courageously face your inner darkness. You do not merely revive the anima. You are touching a greater life force, one that brings you back to yourself in wholeness. There is an energy greater than the anima, greater than the small self you once thought was your limit. In the philosophy of Carl Gustav Jung, this journey is called individuation, the process of becoming an individual, where you gradually shed the masks of expectations and social roles to face the deep archetypes within the unconscious, stepping into the fullness of your authentic self. Jung said, individuation means becoming an individual, and insofar as individuality embraces our innermost, last, and incomparable uniqueness, it also implies becoming one's own self. This is not abstract poetry, but the soul's cry to live truly, live authentically, live wholly. Individuation is not about becoming a better version of yourself. It has nothing to do with perfecting skills, achieving goals, or meeting moral standards. Individuation, in Jung's view, is a profound spiritual journey where you traverse the uncharted shadows of your psyche to reconcile its fragmented pieces and emerge as an original whole, undivided, unscripted. If this journey is a spiraling labyrinth between light and darkness, reason and instinct, then feminine energy is the red thread guiding you through, not by forceful strength, but by a quiet, unstoppable flow. Without feminine energy, individuation is only half complete. You may enter the depths of yourself, but cannot stay. You may see truths, but cannot live them. You may glimpse reality, but lack the softness to embrace it. In the Jungian map of the soul, feminine energy is not exclusive to women. It is a sacred principle alive in all people, the principle of receptivity, transformation, rebirth, and embracing paradox. It is what allows you to stop controlling life and begin entering it through intuition, sensation, and surrender, not as a defeated soul, but as one ready to be reborn. Individuation demands that you traverse the deepest layers of the personal and collective unconscious. In that shadowy realm, only feminine energy dares to step in without demanding immediate light. Only feminine energy can embrace chaos without needing to order it. It does not come to fix but to understand, not to conquer, but to connect. Picture individuation as a long dream through a deep forest. Daylight, symbolizing masculine energy, may guide you into the forest, pointing out dangers. But when night falls, you must learn to follow the sound of rustling leaves, sense the shifting winds, and decipher the signs of the deep woods. That is when feminine energy speaks. Many believe finding the true self is a climb upward, but individuation is a journey inward, into the body, memories, pain, and forgotten parts of the soul. You cannot descend if you are not soft. Feminine energy allows you to soften enough to fall without shattering. Like the earth, it receives all that falls into it without judgment, and from it, new life grows. In Western psychoanalysis, therapy is about clarifying issues. In Jung, healing is deeper. It is befriending the darkness. To do so, you need the energy of an inner mother, not the idealized mother, but the Jungian great mother, one who can hold you when you break and let you grow through your pain. Some women, in their pursuit of self-development, go too far and forget to return to their feminine essence. They become skilled, sharp, self-reliant, yet feel lost, cold, and disconnected from their body, emotions, and dreams. They carried rational energy into the psychological labyrinth, but forgot the map written in tears, silence, and accepted vulnerability. Individuation does not happen at the peak. It happens when you collapse by life's roadside, with nothing left to cling to, and finally dare to say, "I don't know anymore." In that moment, if you do not deny but open yourself to it, feminine energy returns. Like an underground stream rising through a crack you once tried to seal. Like the moon appearing when you stop looking at the sky and start gazing into the water. And when you stand in that darkness, still breathing, still loving, without needing to be seen, that is when your soul emits a light that even the anima bows to hear. There may be no journey lonelier than returning to yourself. No one teaches you how to walk it. Sometimes you don't know where you're headed. But one thing is certain. You are not walking in vain. In the symbolic world, this journey is like digging deep into the earth to rediscover a spring buried under the dust of time, culture, and expectations. You dig with your bare hands. Sometimes they bleed. Sometimes you find only stone. But then, at last, you touch the first hint of moisture, a single cool drop in the heart of the night, small but enough to remind you it was always there, waiting for you to remember. Feminine energy does not demand that you become anything. It only asks you to stop, to listen, to dare to stay with the unnamed chaos within. If what you've heard stirs something in your heart, perhaps you are ready to take the next step on your journey back to yourself. Subscribe to the channel to join me in exploring more profound insights from Carl Jung, stories from the collective unconscious, and practical suggestions to live more consciously each day. Because in the end, you don't need to become someone else. You only need to become the space where feminine energy can manifest, authentic, free, and radiant with light.